Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am your evil patriarchal overlord, Moira Legier, here to mansplain to you why my beard is awesome. This is why I am an anti-feminist, part 11. One of my most favorite memes of all time is one in which there is a picture of a Barbie doll. Above the picture of the Barbie doll are the words, "This is Barbie," followed by the usual inane ramblings from feminism about the negative body image, the stereotypical whatever and whatnot, and the negative effect this has on girls. How terrible and oppressive and so and such, and every other buzzword it is. Next to the image of the Barbie doll is a picture of a He-Man action figure. Above that picture, the words read only, "This is He-Man." I don't believe there is any reason for me to explain what this means, though for the unenlightened ones I may well do so. He-Man is a bloody hulk, a searing mass of muscle and flesh and brawn, an unreachable body for all but the most roided up of men. And Barbie is a slim woman. Both of them also happen to be dolls, toys meant to amuse children. Not that this matters much, of course. Children do not exist to be amused and to play. They exist to be imprinted with an agenda, to be moulded into beautiful pawns of the gender-neutral purple penguin future. I am not all that familiar with the He-Man series or its universe, being a child of the glorious animation of the 90s instead, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Freakazoid, Batman the Animated Series, etc. I am, however, aware enough of the He-Man universe to know two things. 1. Skeletor is the spitting image of Joe Biden. There is an uncanny resemblance. 2. He-Man has not had as many careers as Barbie has, given that she has been granted almost every possible profession in the world, even McDonald's employee. Both the low status and high status professions have been granted her, it seems, bottled and sold to these poor impressionable girls who are ever so oppressed by their dolls and their career prospects. Now, I may very well be an absolutely entitled mansplaining moron, but it seems to me that selling the idea of women being able to hold every profession under the sun would be very much welcomed by the feminist platoons. And it probably is, as long as the woman is not a slim woman with an idealized body type that is unavailable to all but a plastic doll, which she, as a matter of fact, is. A plastic doll. A doll made from plastic. Not a living, breathing human being with organs and emotions and other such pesky annoyances. She is, in fact, a plastic doll. Interesting to note, it is also that her male counterpart, Ken, functions as little more than arm candy for Barbie, a status object which cements her as not only professionally successful, but also socially successful. Ken also just so happened to be completely and utterly neutered, fantastically emasculated, devoid of ham as well as eggs, as it were. Which makes me wonder how in the world Barbie ever managed to get pregnant by him. There is a pregnant Barbie doll, for those of you who are uninitiated. And it is absolutely marvelous. And I say this with sincerity, it is a fantastic toy, all things considered. Don't at me, bruh. Come to think of it, the entirety of the Barbie universe may very well represent the grandest and most fantastic feminist utopia. The ultimate wet dream of the feminist hive mind. A world in which women dominate every profession, men are castrated at birth, thus serving no purpose but to be yet another success object for Barbie and her friends. An object upon which the women then may release all their scorn, anger and malcontent when needed, who obligingly crawls back into his cage when the women are done with whatever he is needed to do at the moment. After all, when all the lids are screwed open and the living room remodeled, what use could he, or any man, for that matter, possibly have? Due to the emasculated nature of Ken, I cannot possibly reach any other conclusion than this. The Barbie universe is a world in which babies are conceived through the use of synthetic sperm, aided by Dr. Barbie herself. As such, the Barbieverse has successfully eliminated the archaic notion that heterosexual intercourse is necessary for procreation. Heterosexual intercourse obviously being, as one should be well aware by now, rape of the woman, no matter what. In structuring their society in this manner, Barbie and her cohorts have succeeded in eliminating all rape. accepting stare rape, fart rape and all that other stuff, but that is of small consequence within the confines of this universe. For Ken to be blinded at birth is next on the agenda, thus eliminating once and for all the pesky male gaze and any future possibilities of stare rape. Through this reasoning, we come to realize that Barbie, as opposed to the claims from feminism, actually represent the pinnacle of flaccid feminist fantasy. Surely, it is a wonder that they do not celebrate her. Had she not been slim, they probably would have. Yet, they must have something to complain about, why not? Nothing is more important to feminism than perpetuating feminism, thus the need for something to whinge and whine about. Otherwise, they would have to consider themselves obsolete and find new careers, which for a professional feminist of no ill repute is a hard task indeed. Make no mistake, there is a lot of money and power involved in feminism, and they have to maintain that stream of money and flow of power by any means, any whims and any whines necessary. The Barbie universe is a feminist utopian fantasy, an ideal society for all but those pesky non-feminists out there for whom it is a dystopian fantasy. Of course, these people do not matter, for they are not flying the true colours of the searing sisterhood. The society which Barbie and Ken inhabit is one in which women rule absolutely everything by virtue of nothing but their sex. Sexual reproduction does not exist, boys are castrated at birth, growing up to be little more than manservants. A society in which the lives of men is an existence of absolute slavery and servitude. Beneath the fluffy pink exterior of the Barbie-verse lies a society of gloom and doom, of chains and whips, neglect and abuse. See, I can do it too, and I wrote this thesis after a night of poor sleep in the span of 10 minutes. Overanalyzing something to the point of absurdity is not difficult at all. And why should a feminist interpretation be more accepted? Personally, I think I make a compelling case. Particularly so if I could flesh it out some more. Much like the body positivity Barbie dolls have been fleshed out in recent years. They are highly irregular around the margins, one could say. Anyway, the roided up action figures made for boys do not damage the self-esteem and body image of boys and young men. I know this to be true because the feminist hive mind have told me so. Now, I tend to believe children in general to be pretty adept at separating fantasy from reality and toys depicting human beings from actual human beings. I have this radical notion that kids are far more clever and far more intelligent than we tend to believe. Also, I really like kids. They are great. You see, these figures for boys are representative of a quote-unquote male power fantasy, and as such is negative for girls and women having to endure the terror of the male power fantasy, not for boys and certainly not for men. Unless, of course, the discussion can be whiplashed about a bit to focus on toxic masculinity, which is harmful to boys and men, but most of all to girls and women, because nothing else matters but women and girls. The only ones allowed to speak on what is damaging to boys and men, or what is good for them, are the followers of feminism, because nothing else matters, and that is all that there is to that. This is also something the feminist hive mind have told me, and so it must be true, because nothing else matters. Yet if I were to make the claim, as I have just done, albeit in more words, that Barbie represents a quote-unquote female power fantasy, I would have a feminist fatwa on my head, which I probably already have. It would not be taken seriously, and I believe rightly so. The polls are in, the votes are counted, and the deaf, dumb and blind have had their say. Their say is simple. Barbie makes girls feel uncomfortable about their bodies, inadequate and so and such. And so they must either be banned or altered to fit in with their vision of the world, because nothing else matters. Implicit in this line of feminist reasoning, taking into consideration that He-Man apparently does not create similar body issues in boys, is the notion that girls are psychologically weaker than boys, that women are emotionally more fragile than men, that they are much more likely than are boys and men to give in to peer pressure and societal expectations of a negative nature. Girls are far more impressionable than boys, except when they aren't, which is, as it always is, when, whatever, never mind. Boys are not affected by unrealistic body whatevers nor unreachable beauty whatevers from their toys. girls are. Therefore, we must not care about boys because they, as opposed to girls, are completely capable of separating toys from reality, fiction from non-fiction, and their power fantasies from their actual day-to-day life. Excepting video games, which have the awesome power of turning them into foul misogynists and other such naughty things. This makes no sense, since boys and men are misogynist by default for being molded into hating women from the moment of birth, but no mind, little matter. Feminism and its ideas do tend to get very confusing, self-contradictory and strange, which may very well be by design, creating a simple intellectual out for every possible refutation for reasons of being designed in a confusing manner. This is true, and so is this other thing, which is the exact opposite to that other thing. This is because feminism is not a monolith, except when it is, despite that it isn't, all dependent on the whim and fury of the feminist in question at the moment of questioning, individualist when it suits them, collectivist when it suits them. Feminism does not exactly leave us with a good picture of femininity, nor does it grant us any belief in the strength and resilience of girls and women when feminists carry on as they do, is what I'm trying to get at. All the while, they give us an incredibly telling view into their opinions on the resilience and strength of boys and men when compared to that of girls and women, which is quite simple. Boys and men can handle anything the world throws at them, girls and women cannot. Evidenced by #KillAllMen being considered A-OK, whereas any criticism of a woman, particularly a feminist woman, is enough to render them slaves to PTSD for the rest of their lives, and is more than enough proof of the terrible misogyny of the internet as well as all men everywhere. Men are well suited to endure a constant negative message, up to and including calls for gendercide, even on national fucking television in Australia, as we have recently seen. Mona El-Tahawi on the, I believe now infamous, Q&A feminist special. They removed that segment from the internet after a while, claiming it to be too controversial. I believe to engage in damage control on behalf of feminism. It would be far more damaging to the image and reputation of feminism to keep it up, and so it is removed, clearing away evidence as it were. Or am I being too cynical and overly paranoid? I don't know. One man's paranoia is another man's reason, after all. One thing is certain, however. All this abuse, and more, men shall endure, for men are expected to endure it. Yet women are not even suited to endure criticism, nor do they ever need to. They are to be hoisted way above that. #BelieveWomen does not only refer to nefarious claims of dubious sexual assaults. PTSD from Twitter, post-Twitter stress disorder, social media shell-shocked, poor women and their social media shenanigans. They must most certainly deserve a safe space on the internet to spew their #KillAllMen without being harassed for it. How else would they be able to demonize all men without being reminded that men are, as a matter of fact, actual human beings that may not take kindly to calls for them to be killed solely on the basis of their sex? Yet the claim from feminism is that men in general view women as weak and incapable. It is not men that claim women to be victims of the air conditioning and the misogyny of temperature, or of male flatulence, or exclamation marks. Just putting that out there for you to chew on. It is quite telling, I think, that feminism seek to shut down, to cancel and remove anything they dislike. If failing to cancel it, they attempt to mold it into something they enjoy. Instead of just accepting that some people enjoy things they themselves do not enjoy and carrying on with their life, they would rather make it so that no one shall enjoy it. A world in which they have to coexist with people who knowingly and without a moment's hesitation enjoy something they cannot stand is a terrible world to exist in. There is a reason for me referring to feminism as totalitarian and tyrannical. If something does not suit their delicate sensibilities, it must be shut down so that no one can enjoy it, and people oblige. For some odd and peculiar reason, people oblige them in their quest for moral as well as ideological purity. This man wrote something on a portrait of Stalin in the newspaper, off to the gulag with him, subterfuge and acts of terrorism. This man made a joke about female lingerie, off to the gulag with him, subterfuge and acts of misogyny. Imagine the horror of someone enjoying something you do not enjoy. The horror. Oh, the horror. Sic transit gloria mundi. Ford transit gloria mundi. Such is the case with striptease and pornography and grid girls and Barbie and nude modelling and 50 Shades of Grey and tit and tat and ass and legs. If the feminist horde do not enjoy it, none shall be allowed to enjoy it. It does not matter what women in these professions say, whether they enjoy their work or not. The feminist hive mind, that is to say their moral superiors, have decided that these women are not allowed to enjoy their work and as such are not allowed to do their work. They are victims of their own choices, which are forced on them by the patriarchy, whether they agree with this statement or not. Women cannot make their own choices if those choices contradict the feminist position, which just about every choice does, since feminism is not a monolith and one feminist's act of empowerment is another feminist's act of oppression. In this way, sex work is both empowering and oppressive to feminism, which is all about women making their own choices, except when it isn't, which is when it is. Seemingly and apparently, nothing is more vile and treacherous to these charlatans than a woman choosing to be a homemaker, a housewife, a stay-at-home mother. That is such a terrible affront to the terribly trembling forces that be, that they will name, blame and shame any woman who does so. Try to convince her that she has not made her own choices, but is locked under the spell and awesome influence of the patriarchy and must break free from its chains and instead enjoy what they say she must enjoy, which is not necessarily what she wants to do, but that does not matter. Any one individual woman does not exist to an ideology that is collectivist when it suits them and individualist when collectivism does not suit them. No sir, she does not. She is part of the in-group woman, and as such must do as the sisterhood demands. Otherwise, she is a traitor to the sisterhood as well as the cause, whatever the cause may be at any given moment. And that cause is as fickle and ever-changing as anything that is fickle and ever-changing could possibly be. The typical mantra of "we only want equality between the sexes" does not compute very well when feminism opposes equality, such as they do in England, where the pension age has been raised for women to be equal to the pension age of men. This they cannot stand, and so they protest and oppose, even when men die younger than women, and so ought to have their pension age lowered for true and proper equality. It is so obviously not equality they seek that it boils my teeth and grinds my intestines that people still chant this bloody mantra of theirs that it is only about equality, as if that nebulous weasel term equality even means anything anymore except whatever a goddamned feminist demand that it means at any given moment, which is to be opposed by the next feminist. And neither of these are real feminists, nor is their feminism real feminism, according to the feminists that oppose the first feminism. Cock me backwards and paint my dogs pink. This whole ideology is so self-contradictory that I cannot fathom why people label themselves as a feminist as though it means anything concrete. Apparently, it means everything and nothing all at once. It is for all the causes in the universe, at the same time as being only for the causes of women. The brilliant Elizabeth Hobson has a saying which I enjoy very much. Quote, "Feminism is harmful to children and other living things." End quote. Well put, madam. Well put. If you are a man who enjoy any of the pastime activities mentioned above, if you are a man who simply just want a traditional relationship for whatever reason, may the grand patriarch Xenu have mercy on your lack of soul. You are henceforth and until the end of time a foul oppressor of women, contributing to the ongoing sexual objectification of women, the subjugation and enslavement of women, the rape, pillage and ruination of women, the body hysteria of women, the fuck if I know insert whatever here of women. After all, women were treated as chattel back in the days when they were pampered and protected, as opposed to now where they are free to do exactly as they wish as long as they do what feminism wishes them to do. And as long as men, as well as society overall, pamper and protect them. Now, I have stated before that I am not a particular fan of traditionalism, at least not one that is enforced by law or by culture. I believe it removes far too much individual freedom from everyone, be they male or female. How people choose to delegate responsibilities and roles in their personal relationships, traditional or not, should not be of any worry to anyone but those who are involved. But to claim as feminism does, that men overwhelmingly emerge victorious in all manner of privilege and whatnot when it comes to a traditional relationship is brutally dishonest, at best. No one lies on their deathbed whispering, "I wish I had spent more time at work." Now, I am well aware that feminism makes the claim to care about the plight of men. Gender roles hurt men too. Odd, then, that they jabber on and on about men needing to stand up for and protect women, which is a very traditional gender role, to be sure and to be certain. Protect and provide. Provide them with Barbie dolls and protect them from Barbie dolls and the negative impact these dolls have on young girls at the same time, despite Barbie being created by a woman. This don't matter much, of course. Celebrating things created by women is only ever done if the things created flows with the orthodoxy, which it probably did back in the day. However, what self-proclaimed feminists of yesteryear celebrated will not be celebrated by the self-proclaimed feminists of this current year of ours, except when it is, which is when it isn't. It is almost as though one would be inclined to believe, yet again, that feminism, as it stands, have no end goals, that it is an ideology and a movement that is created to carry on and carry on and carry on in perpetuity, manufacturing new outrages and terrors and this, that, the others for every new generation of frail and frantic femininity, even if that means going contrary to the previous generation of frantic feminism and its causes. Everything, you have to understand, is a woman's issue first and foremost, no matter what it is. Even the things that are not women's issues first and foremost has to be a women's issue first and foremost, which is interesting in itself. Men are victims of violence far more than women are, yet women are most affected, and are the ones who must be protected. Men are completely capable of fending for themselves, and women are not. And so women must be provided for and protected from men by men, despite all men being terrible and despite men being the main victims of violence. This could well be applied to anything. Meteor hits Earth, women most affected. Barbie hits stores, women most affected. Girls enjoy Barbie dolls, and this is terrible. Buy a fucking He-Man doll then, and stop your whining. And that is it for this ramble. Join me next week for more tales from the crypt and my terribly hoarse voice, as I attempt to channel the awesome might and energy of my intoxicatingly masculine beard into words once again. Thank you very much for watching. Here follows an outro most befitting a video of this nature, a blatant attempt at virtual panhandling. Should you wish to support this channel, as well as my blog and any further endeavors this strange path will take me on, there are a few ways you can do that. The easiest would be to like, share and subscribe, as well as clicking the sometimes functional notification bell. Having the message, such as it is, manspread and mansplained far and wide will do wonders. You could also support my rambling and barely contained insanity by buying my books, which are linked below. More books will be made available as time allows. I also have a Redbubble shop, linked below, where you can buy prints in various forms of some of the artwork presented in my videos. Or you can contact me through the contact form on my blog for original artwork, commissions or prints direct from the source, so to speak. Until next time, I am your humble bearded bard, Morea Legier, manspreading majestically beneath the steel sky of doom.